Good morning, this is Robin Bieber on the Crude Spread Talk on the 7th of May at 8:15 in the morning London time. And we're going to look at WTI front-end structure first. And the June-July WTI is beginning to get a little toppy. The stochastic is high. It has a target to 108. The 5-day gap over the last 2 days has been too wide. And now I would not be surprised by an attempt to try and narrow it. And the 5-day moving average comes in around minus 198. And if we just look at a 60-minute chart of this spread, we can see quite toppy, struggling up at around the highs of today so far. The stochastic is negative. I would expect this this spread to slip back a little bit. As long as it stays over the 5-day moving average at minus 198, it's in good shape, and there are no targets lower. The upside is maintained whilst being over the 5-day, but it needs to calm down a little bit more, cool down, and maybe slide a bit during the course of the morning. Now the July-August, good and steady. It needs to stay over minus 146, or the odds are that we narrow the gap, the 5-day gap, and dip down towards the minus 164 5-day moving average level. It's got upside to minus 127, but it looks like it's struggling a little bit. And if we look at the 60-minute chart on this spread, it's beginning to get towards what I call a toppy area. Just be careful. It's not bearish, but I would expect some sort of wobble during the course of the morning. Now, Dec June TI, it is below the 34-day moving average at minus 247. It has no target whilst below there. Also, it looks like it needs to further narrow the 5-day gap, and the 5-day gap comes in around 278. We're printing 254, and the 60-minute chart is suggesting a little bit more weakness. So don't be surprised by an attempt to move towards the 5-day moving average, but whilst above the 5-day, it's in perfectly good shape, but just in a slight correction mode. And the DEC red DEC hit its target yesterday to the 55-day moving average, this sort of ochre coloured line here, sliding back to the 34-day at minus 404 where it's printing. It looks like it might need to slide a little bit more towards the 5-day moving average, which comes in around minus 436, because the 60-minute chart over here on the left is suggesting some weakness this morning. So don't be surprised if this structure cools down a little bit this morning and dips slightly. That's not being bearish, it just means that it's due to slip a little bit. Now, moving on to the Brent structure, and first of all, the July, August came close to its target at minus 66 with I think a 70 high yesterday. It's now sliding a bit. The 5-day gap was far too wide over the last 2 days, and now it's giving back some value, printing minus 93. It looks like it needs to narrow the gap between it and the 117 level, minus 117 level, the 5-day gap, and I would expect that to occur. If you look at the 60-minute chart on the July org, it's beginning to look a little bit toppy here. So don't be surprised by a little bit of shedding of value this morning, and then for it to just dip a little bit. And moving on to the org set, hit its target at the 50% correction point at minus 81 yesterday, is now sliding to narrow the 5-day gap. The 5-day moving average comes in about 105, so don't be surprised by a move back towards that level, but as long as the 5-day moving average holds, it's in perfectly good shape. And if we look here at the 60-minute chart, this is certainly suggesting more weakness, but I would not expect this weakness to last much beyond the early part of this morning. Now moving on to the back end structure, the DEC June Brent neared its target at the 55-day moving average yesterday, but is now sliding back towards the 34-day at minus 260. You've got the 5-day moving average at minus 270. I wouldn't be surprised if it neared that level. The 60-minute chart is suggesting a little bit more weakness, but nothing too dramatic. And the DEC red DEC, again, it came near its target at the 55-day moving average before turning around a bit. Still got a positive stochastic. Looks like it needs to test the 34-day coming in around minus 437, and maybe even the 5-day at minus 454. This 60-minute chart is a little bit worrying, and it suggests a dip to near the 5-day moving average during the course of the London morning. I expect all structure to wobble a little bit this morning, and then wait and see, particularly around the 5-day moving averages. They're all looking a little bit vulnerable with having had a 5-day gap that was far too wide over the last 2 days, and now this is normalizing, and we could see a little bit more weakness this morning. That's all for today, folks. Good luck, good trading, and bon appetit.